So for Andrew, for your clients and people watching this, what's the hardest part about bringing up money or end of life stuff with a parent? Like it's hard for you to go to your parents, and it's hard for parents to hear it. And I know there's gonna be people out there hearing this saying, yes, this is sad, not gonna happen to me. I'm still gonna put it off even though they want to do it. That's fine. That's gonna happen. But understand how hard it is and how making that first step is huge and critical. So what's the hardest part and how can you help them kind of make that first step?
Hardest part for sure is just facing mortality. The fact that, hey, your parents are going to die, and the parents facing the fact that they're going to die at some point. Some people are very comfortable with that. Like, my mom, she'll tell you everything. I mean, she told me what she wanted to have, funeral service, this, that, et cetera. And a lot of people are reluctant to it. It's an avoidance thing, avoiding uncomfortable feelings. But, from a kid's perspective, oftentimes, other than just confronting mortality, it's the fear of looking greedy. Like, mom and dad, do you have an estate plan? And they're afraid mom and dad's gonna say, what, do you want our money? You want our IRA, our beach house, blah, 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 blah. So that keeps a lot of people kind of at bay because they don't want to look like they're only concerned about what they're gonna get or benefit from. And then a lot of folks, again, have just this normal, I'll figure it out later. It's not a pressing issue. If we all knew, hey, Andrew's gonna die tomorrow at 12 p.m., you better believe I'd get my ducks in a row, like today. I'd be like, oh crap, I got till 12 p.m. to figure this stuff out. So a lot of people, because our brains are so wired for now, like humans, again, like most mammals, we focus on survive this instant. And when someone passes away, now you have to survive that instant. And so it's like, it's here. Like, what do we do now? But also, a lot of people, again, depending on how they grew up with money and death, and like you brought up such a good point, Will, with Jasmine and your soon-to-be mother-in-law, is even cultural norms. Some cultures are very open with talking about death and celebrating death, and others it's very taboo. And no, 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 we don't talk about that, and especially the money side of it. So there's a lot of complicating factors here, but I think the two biggest things are, one, facing a reality and putting yourself in those shoes of, okay, what do we need to do before we get there? And then secondly, just the fear of, I'll get to it later, or, the idea of it's not urgent. I'll have to wait and wait and wait and wait.
Yeah, and funerals and burials are not cheap. Let me
No.
tell you, it is very not cheap. And how much it cost up there in New York, it was about the national poverty line was how much it cost between the between ceremonies. But I actually thought about it, like the profit margins of like a cemetery, their costs makes a lot of sense. I was like, you know what? I get it because it's just a one-time thing and they're there forever. You can't like there's no subscription services for a cemetery.
Yeah, it was the weirdest piece of mail we got was when we bought my dad's burial plot because he had said he wanted to be buried. And yeah, we bought his burial plot and we get a notification. It's like, here's your certificate of ownership. And I'm like, this is the weirdest damn real estate I'll ever own in my life, but
Yeah.
whatever. Here it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. No kidding. No kidding. And luckily, two cultural norms. Like, luckily, Jasmine's parents did talk about that themselves. Like, he wanted to be buried closer to his mother in the cemetery, didn't want to be cremated. So some of those wishes were stated and known. But like, even in the hospital, right? Not power of attorney, but like who makes the medical decisions? Like, what are his
Oh, yeah.
wishes? Some people
Healthcare directives.
healthcare directives. Some people don't want to be on life support on a ventilator. They want that plug pulled early. And like in the case of my grandmother, my mom had to convince her older sister, like with her mother, this is not a way to live. Like it's over. And she wanted to, and like that is the last thing you want is fighting or a surprise. And a surprise can also be debt, right? When someone passes away, you can be responsible for their debt. You might not be, but you got to know where the bodies are buried and where, or even on the flip side, did you have another bank account that we didn't know about that you were putting into, if it's a business bank account or whatever. So it's all about kind of having that conversation. And I kind of just went off on a tangent there. So where do you even start? So where do you start when someone is alive? What is that first step once that conversation is being had? And then kind of just figuring out where to go from there.
The biggest thing, or being aware, especially if you're talking about your parents, of what they have or haven't done. a will, you know, a trust, etc.? Have they done any estate planning? Um, the way it works, you know, in every state is if you die without a will, you die intestate is the term that they use, where the court is going to appoint the parties. So predominantly the executor. A court-appointed executor is usually a family member next in line, you know, a sibling, a child, whoever. But they're the ones who have to handle the estate. They clean up all the crap somebody owns or owes. So the first step is definitely knowing mom and dad, have you done any of this? Do you have a will, etc.? The other piece that's so important is exactly like you mentioned, Will. And this kind of builds into what do you do when you actually do your estate planning, but having every wish in detail that you want to make it easier for your kids or siblings who are going to handle this around final arrangements. Because, like my dad, you know, when we were kids, he used to say he wanted to be cremated. So I always thought, okay, he want to be cremated. Well, when I sent him the will and he got it done, he said buried. So, you know, my sister and I, it's like, well, dad wants to be buried. He used to say he wants to be cremated. And my sister's like, well, let's do what he wishes. He wants to be buried. I'm like, well, where the hell are we going to bury him? He didn't put that in there. We had to pick a place.
Yeah, you got to figure it
And
out.
then, you know, like you said, the ceremony and all that stuff is you got to figure this out. And, you know, for most people, again, they feel with all the stress of money and grief, etc., making those decisions is hard. Like the day my dad died, my wife and I went and we were at the funeral home, and my sister's on the phone with us, speakerphone, and we're trying to pick all these things out. And I mean, it's things from like, what shirt does he want to wear? What picture do you want to use? What do you want in his eulogy? Do you want songs? Do you want this? You know, who's the pastor? Who's like, there's so many moving parts. So a big thing is, and this is just a commercial for when you get your will done. If you have things you want, please list it. More details, the better. You know, if your favorite hymn is Victory in Jesus and you want that sung as they lower your casket in the ground, please put that in your will. And make it easy. And that's the big, but that's definitely where you want to start is knowing. Because if mom and dad said, no, we don't have it done, then at least you can expect, okay, mom and dad die. I've got a couple options. I can handle it myself when the clerk of court grants me that appointment of a guardianship or conservatory, whatever, to act as the executor, or I go hire an estate attorney who can do administration work and handle this estate for me. And again, there's a big cost to that, but a lot of people, if there's a lot of moving parts and complexity, their usually hand is forced where they do hire legal counsel to serve in that realm too.
Yeah, I bet a lot of people don't even know that you can put something so specific as that, as the song you want to be played when you're getting put in the ground into your will, right? Like that is something that's very, very actually good to know because it is a lot of moving things, a lot of moving pieces, and it is very overwhelming. In fact, I'm probably 95% sure my grandmother wants me to give her eulogy because I don't know. It's a weird skill to have. I'm very good at eulogizing people. I did both my grandfathers and then I did Jasmine's dad. So I don't know. People like what I have to say about them. So yeah, having that stuff in there, I think, is super important. And my mom did that. My mom called me the other day. She's like, "Don't worry, I already have the casket picked out. I know exactly what I want to do. Like the funeral home, everything. All you gotta do is show up." I'm like, "Oh, that's lovely."
Yeah.
So parents knowing that you can do that, I think taking it from that approach is the right way to do it because parents can be very stubborn. So, what advice would you give to them to open up and allow their kids to kind of enter this world and, take head on with what we're all going to have to deal with one day?